Hi, welcome to the video lecture series on data structures and analysis of algorithms. So, in today's class, we'll be learning about linked list and its implementation. To start off with, linked list is actually a linear data structure in which it can store the data, but it is not actually stored in a continuous locations. Here, that memory locations will be scattered uh, from one place to other place, but it uses some sort of connectivity to connect all these memory locations, and that is called as linked list. So to connect it, we use a concept called as node here. So what is node? So when we put all these nodes together, when it is getting logically connected with each other, then that kind of concept or that kind of data structure is called as linked list. Now this node is generally classified into two portions. One is called as data portion and another is called as pointer portion. This data portion can have a number, it can have a string, or it can have any kind of data. But the pointer portion will be pointing to the next node. So these are the two major parts in a node. So you can see a visual representation at the end. So I'm using a numerical representation. Data is represented in a numerical format here. So 10, 20 and 30, it is each node is connected with each other. And you can see that finally the last node is actually having null at the next pointer, because it is not going to point to any other node after this. So that is the final node. That's why it is mentioned as null here. Now, how to create a structure of the node? So as I said that there are two portions in a node, that is a number, that is a data portion, another is called as a pointer portion. So I'm going to have a numerical value in the data portion. So I have used the integer number here, and the next is actually it is going to point to the next node. So obviously the data type should be a node data type. So I'm using a next pointer of the data type called as node here. So now I'm using a constructor to initialize the values here. So whatever the value I pass inside the node, that will be assigned to the number portion, that is the data portion, and the next portion will be automatically null here. Now you can see here that this is how actually the node is actually getting represented. So number and next portion here. So this is called as node. Now when I talk about how to insert a node, so you can see here I have written a function called as insert, and the class which I use to represent here is called as a linked list class. And now I'm going to insert three values here, 10, 20 and 30. So you can see the visual representation here. So as soon as object x1 is getting created, I'm just going to call an insert function here with a value called as 10. So now immediately the control will be transferred inside to the first line of the function. The first line of the function is node x is equal to new of node. So actually I'm calling the constructor which I have actually represented in the previous slide. So 10 will be passed in number and a node will be created with the value called as 10 here. Now see here, that's what 10 has been created in the data portion, and initially the null pointer will be representing next pointer here. Now you can see here that node is actually represented with a name called as x. Now when I come to x dot next is equal to head, but initially head is having a null value. So because the first node will be having a null value here, so now automatically you can see that the next portion is actually filled with null. Now finally what I'm going to do here is I made this node x as head node. So this is the first node. So I'm going to make this node as head node here. You can see here that the visual representation, what happens is x has been changed as head here. Now after the first execution, I will just go for the second execution here. That means I want to insert next value called as 20. Now number will be getting a value called as 20 here. Now again it goes to the first statement of the function. Now number will be having the value called as 20. A node will be created with the data portion called as 20 with the name called as x here. Now 20 node is created and its name is actually mentioned as x. Now what I have to do is I have to connect this first node and the second node. So X node has to be connected with the head node here. So for that, when I use x dot next is equal to head, so there will be a logical connection between the x node and the head node here. Now you can see here that x dot next is equal to head. That means the next pointer will be pointing to the head node here. Now finally I will make this node as head node now. So what happens is, you can see here that the newly created node has been made as head node. Now you need there are two nodes has been created, but both these nodes has been logically connected with each other. Now we try to insert the third node. When I go to the third node, I am inserting a value called as 30. Now once again I call the insert function. So 30 node will be created with a value called as 30 here. Now this node will be named as x again. Now I have to connect this node and the head node. Okay. So when I use x dot next is equal to head, that means this node and the next node will be getting connected here. So it's what it is getting connected. Now finally I will just make this node as head node here. So the most recently inserted node will be made as a head node. So that's it. So that's about insertion. Now we can see here the visual representation that how this nodes are getting connected with each other. Now we'll go for how to display the linked list elements here. When I want to display it, by default the first node will be a head node. Then I have to span from the first node to the last node, and I want to display all the elements inside that. So in this case 10, 20 and 30 has to get displayed. Now I take the head node, I just simply assign to first here. Now when I call the display function, so display function goes to first node of first equal to head. That means head node will be assigned to first. That means first and head will be pointing to the same node now. Now you can see here first and head is actually pointing to the same node called as 10 here. Now we will check it out whether first node is null or not. Now it is actually pointing into a node, so it is not null. So I just enter inside the while loop. I will check for it. So first not equal to null is actually true. So we will just enter inside system.out.println. So first dot number. So number actually first points to the first node here. Now the number actually represents the data portion. The data portion has a value called as 10 here. So first dot number will be printing the value called as 10. Now I should go to the next node here. So first dot next should be made as first. That means the very next node which is connected to this first node, that node has to be made as first node now. So that means I am just traveling from one node to other node. Now when I just make first is equal to first dot next, now you can see that first node actually moves to the second node. Now this is actually first is actually a logical name, that's all. Now it is actually representing the second node now. Now again first is actually verifying whether the first node is null. Since this node is not null, once again I enter inside the loop, and now first dot number actually gives me the value called as 20 now, because it is pointing to the second node. Now it prints the value called as 20, and now I want to move to the next node, that is the third node. So first is equal to first dot next. That means it has to get connected to the third node. It has to move to the third node. Now I'm moving the pointer. First dot next is equal to first. Now it goes to the third node here. So it is actually 30. Now once again I come here. Now again, since it's pointing to the third node, first is not equal to null. Again the condition is true. Now first dot number now represents a value called as 30. Now 30 will get printed. Now the crucial point here is first dot next. Now see here, first actually points to the third node, and first dot next is actually the next portion. The next portion is actually null here. That means now automatically first dot next is equal to null, so automatically first will be null here. Now we can see here that first actually takes the value called as null. So now first is equal to null. So since the loop will end in a false condition, it will terminate. So that's about linked list. So thanks for watching the video. Have a good day.